Hello, and welcome back. If this is your first time here, you've found a quiet corner of the internet. A place called Sleepy Science, where we slow down, breathe out, and let the natural world carry us gently toward rest. Tonight is a little different from our usual wanderings. We are not going outward into the cosmos, not upward into the stars, not across deserts or mountain ranges. Tonight, we are going somewhere much smaller, somewhere hidden and soft and wonderfully strange. We are going beneath the surface of the water, into the cool, still, dimly lit world of a creature so unusual, so quietly remarkable, that once you know about it, it is very hard to forget. The axolotl. Say that word slowly to yourself for a moment. Axolotl. There is something almost rhythmic about it, the way it rolls and settles, like the sound of water moving over smooth stones. Before we begin, a small and gentle request. If these slow, thoughtful explorations have brought you any peace, any comfort, any of those good sleepy feelings you came here for, please consider leaving a like or dropping a comment below. Even a simple word. It means more than you know, and it helps others find their way here too. If you would like to help keep Sleepy Science going, there is a link to our Patreon in the description. Every bit of support helps us continue making these videos for you, and for everyone out there who just needs somewhere calm to land at the end of the day. But now, let us leave all of that behind. Settle in. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw go soft. Let the room around you become distant and quiet. We are going underwater, into the cool dark, into the world of one of the most extraordinary animals that has ever existed on this earth. Let's begin. The axolotl is not found anywhere else on Earth except one place. That alone should tell you something. Most animals spread across continents over millions of years. They adapt, they migrate, they colonize new regions. But the axolotl never left. It stayed exactly where it began, in a single, ancient lake system near what is now Mexico City, in a place called Xochimilco. Xochimilco is a network of canals and lakes that has existed for thousands of years. The Aztec civilization built floating gardens there, called Chinampas, threading through channels of water, growing food and flowers above the surface, while the axolotl moved silently below. For the axolotl, this small, watery world was enough. It never needed more. The water was cool and murky, filtered through volcanic soil, rich with small creatures to eat. The axolotl found its niche and stayed there, generation after generation, in that one quiet place, while the world above the water changed enormously around it. There is something deeply peaceful about that kind of existence. The axolotl did not chase anything beyond its small and perfect world. And in that stillness, it became something truly remarkable. The name axolotl comes from the Nahuatl language of the Aztec people. Nahuatl is a language still spoken today by over 1.5 million people in Mexico. It is ancient and layered, full of compound words that carry entire images inside them. The word axolotl is believed to come from two roots: atl, meaning water, and exolotl, meaning dog, or perhaps more precisely, servant or guide. Colotl was also the name of an Aztec deity, a god connected to lightning, to death, and to the underworld. He was depicted with a dog's head, and he was said to guide the souls of the dead through the dark and difficult passage into the afterlife. The axolotl was associated with this god, perhaps because of its strangeness, its alien appearance, the way it seemed to belong somewhere between worlds. Not quite fish, not quite salamander, not quite creature of the deep, and not quite one of the land. Something in between. Something that crossed thresholds. The axolotl, the water dog, the companion that guides you through the dark. Even the name is gentle. Axolotls are a type of salamander, but they never grow up. This is perhaps the most quietly astonishing thing about them, and it takes a moment to fully settle in. In the life cycle of most salamanders, there is a transformation. The young salamander begins as a water-dwelling larva, breathing through gills, swimming through dim underwater spaces. Then, at a certain point, its body undergoes a dramatic metamorphosis. The gills are absorbed. Lungs develop. The creature crawls out of the water, onto land, and becomes a terrestrial adult. The axolotl never does this. It keeps its gills. It keeps its fins. It keeps its larval body shape. And yet, despite appearing to be forever young, it becomes fully sexually mature. It can reproduce. It can live a full and complete life. It simply does all of this while maintaining the form of a juvenile. This phenomenon has a name. Scientists call it neoteny, from the Greek for something like extending youth. The axolotl is the most famous example of neoteny in the animal kingdom. It retained the traits of youth so completely, so successfully, that evolution simply never saw a reason to take them away. In a world that so often equates maturity with progress, there is something quietly subversive about a creature that decided otherwise. That said, here I am, perfectly complete, just as I am. The feathery tufts around the axolotl's head are its gills. They are perhaps the first thing you notice about an axolotl when you see one. These soft, branching, feather-like structures that fan out from either side of its head, drifting gently in the water. They look almost decorative, like something a costume designer might add to suggest a creature from another world, or like the petals of a strange flower that chose to bloom above a head rather than on a stem. But they are working organs. Functional, efficient, beautifully adapted. These external gills are covered in tiny, thread-like filaments called lamellae. As water flows over them, oxygen passes through the thin membrane and into the axolotl's blood. Carbon dioxide passes the other way. All of this exchange happening in those delicate, visible plumes, swaying gently in the current. Most animals breathe in ways you cannot see. The lungs hidden deep inside. The gills tucked beneath flaps of skin. But the axolotl breathes where you can watch it happen. Right there on the outside of its body, in those soft, waving, beautiful structures that look like they belong to a dream. And as you watch them sway, you might find yourself breathing a little more slowly too. Axolotls come in colors that feel invented. In the wild, axolotls are typically dark. Their bodies are a mottled brownish black, flecked with golden and olive tones, which helps them blend into the dim, murky bottom of their lake. Camouflage matters when you are a soft-bodied creature living in a world with larger predators. But in captivity, generations of selective breeding have produced axolotls in colors that look almost impossible. There is the leucistic axolotl, which appears almost entirely white, pale as a pearl, with eyes that glow a faint pink. Not quite albino, but ethereal, like something that was painted with light. There is the golden albino, a warm, shimmering yellow, like something hammered from soft metal. There is the melanoid, entirely dark, a deep and velvety black with no pattern at all. And there are axolotls in copper tones, in lavender grays, in palest cream. Each one unique. Each one looking as though it does not quite belong to the ordinary world. You could watch an axolotl for a long time and simply enjoy the color. The way it catches the light. The way the gills shift and shimmer. The way the whole animal seems to glow faintly, like a living lamp at the bottom of a quiet tank. The axolotl can regenerate almost any part of its body. This is the ability that has made scientists sit up very straight in their chairs. The one that has sent researchers around the world into laboratories, poring over data, running experiments, trying to understand something that should not be possible. If an axolotl loses a limb, it grows back. Not a simple patch of scar tissue, not a rough approximation. The full limb, bone and muscle and nerves and skin, rebuilt from scratch. Functional, complete, indistinguishable from the original. And it is not just limbs. Axolotls have been observed regenerating portions of their hearts, sections of their spinal cords, parts of their brains, their eyes, their jaws. Even portions of skin removed deliberately by scientists have been replaced with perfectly ordinary, unscarred tissue. The process works through something called a blastema. When tissue is damaged, the cells at the wound site do not simply scar over, as they would in most animals. Instead, they begin to dedifferentiate. That means they step backward, losing their specific identity, returning to something more like a stem cell. A cell that has not yet decided what it will become. These undecided cells then multiply rapidly, gathering at the site of the wound, forming a small mound of potential. And then, guided by signals scientists are still working to fully understand, they begin to rebuild. Bone appears first, then muscle tissue, then nerves threading through, then skin closing over it all. The whole process can take weeks, and when it is done, there is almost nothing to show that anything was ever missing. Imagine that. A creature that can simply rebuild itself. Quietly, without fuss, piece by piece. Scientists believe axolotl regeneration could one day help heal humans. This is not science fiction. It is active, ongoing, deeply serious research happening in universities and laboratories around the world right now. Human bodies have some regenerative capacity. Livers can regrow to a remarkable degree after partial removal. Skin heals. Bone knits back together. Some cells replace themselves constantly. But we cannot regrow a limb. We cannot heal a severed spinal cord. We cannot regenerate the neurons lost in neurological disease. The axolotl can. Researchers have been studying the specific genes that activate during axolotl regeneration. They have found certain molecular signals, proteins and chemical pathways that appear to be the on switches for the process. Some of these same genes exist in humans. They are simply not activated in the same way. This raises a question that has electrified the field of regenerative medicine. Could we learn to turn these switches on? Could understanding the axolotl's biology help us coax human cells to behave differently after injury? Could it someday mean healing for people with spinal injuries, or limb loss, or diseases that destroy nerve tissue? The answers are not yet in. This is patient, careful work, the kind of work that takes decades. But the axolotl, sitting quietly in its tank, patiently regrowing whatever it has lost, is one of the most important research subjects on the planet. A small, strange, softly glowing creature, holding secrets that could change what it means to be human. Axolotls have a permanent smile. This is not metaphor. It is anatomy. The shape of the axolotl's mouth is fixed in a gentle upward curve. It cannot change its expression. It does not have the muscle structure for that kind of movement. And yet, when you look at one, you see a smile. It is one of the reasons people find axolotls so immediately endearing. That fixed, soft, permanent expression of what looks like contentment. Like the axolotl has decided it is perfectly happy where it is, at the bottom of this quiet body of water, and it would like you to know. In a world where human faces cycle through dozens of expressions in a single minute, where anxiety and effort and concentration and worry all write themselves across our features, there is something almost enviable about that fixed smile. Just resting in expression, just floating, just being and appearing to be perfectly at ease with it. Axolotls move through the water with extraordinary stillness. They are not fast swimmers, not the kind of creature that darts and flickers through the water. They tend to drift rather than drive, using slow undulations of their fin-tipped tails to move forward, and occasional gentle strokes of their 4 small legs to adjust their position. Watching an axolotl move is a little like watching someone navigate in slow motion. Unhurried, deliberate, almost meditative. They spend a good deal of their time near the bottom of their environment, resting among plants or beneath rocky overhangs, still except for the constant, barely visible sway of their gills. This stillness is not laziness. It is a beautifully efficient strategy. An axolotl conserves energy by remaining calm. It waits for food to come close enough to ambush rather than chasing it. It sits in its preferred temperature zone without expending energy on movement. It has mastered the art of doing almost nothing and getting everything it needs from that nothing. There is a lesson somewhere in that. For those of us who lie awake making mental lists of all the things we still need to do. Perhaps the axolotl knows something we have forgotten. That rest is not wasted time. It is the whole point. An axolotl's eyes have no eyelids. They are open always, watchful and still. The eyes of an axolotl are small and dark, and in lighter-colored individuals they can have a faint, golden ring around the iris that catches the light in a way that seems almost intentional. Like a jewel pressed gently into the side of the head. Because axolotls have no eyelids, they sleep with their eyes open. Scientists can tell when an axolotl is resting because of a change in behavior and responsiveness, not because of any visible change in its eyes. It simply becomes still and less reactive to the world, while those small, dark eyes remain open, watching. There is something almost comforting about that image. An axolotl sleeping at the bottom of a quiet pool, eyes open, gills drifting, perfectly still, the water around it unmoving, the world above distant and irrelevant. Sleeping, but watching. Present, but drifting. That is a kind of rest worth imagining. Axolotls can sense movement in the water through a system called the lateral line. This is something that fish also possess, and it is one of the senses that most of us have no equivalent for. The lateral line is a row of sensory cells running along the body, able to detect minute changes in water pressure and vibration. When something moves in the water nearby, even if it makes no sound, even if it creates no visible ripple large enough to see, the axolotl feels it. The displacement of water, the tiny wavefront that every moving object pushes ahead of itself, registers along those sensory cells and is transmitted to the brain. This means the axolotl is aware of its environment in a way that goes beyond sight and hearing. It can feel the presence of things, can sense motion without seeing it, can know that something is approaching from behind without turning around. For a creature that lives in murky, dimly lit water where visibility is limited, this is invaluable. The water itself becomes a medium of information. Every disturbance speaks. Every creature passing nearby announces itself through the movement of water. It is a quiet, constant, invisible conversation happening in the water all the time, below the surface of things. Axolotls are almost entirely carnivorous. Despite their gentle appearance and their floating, dreamlike way of moving through the world, axolotls are hunters. In the wild, they eat small fish, worms, insect larvae, crustaceans, and anything else small enough to fit in their mouths. They do not stalk their prey in the way a hawk or a cat might. They are ambush predators. They sit. They wait. They sense the movement of something small coming close through that lateral line system. And when the moment is right, they open their mouths with a sudden, powerful suction, drawing the prey inward before it has time to react. The axolotl's jaw is not designed for crushing or chewing. It has small, vestigial teeth, barely more than gentle ridges, good mostly for gripping. The meal is typically swallowed whole or in large pieces. And then the axolotl returns to stillness. Back to floating, back to waiting, back to that perpetual gentle smile. The whole thing happening so calmly, so without drama, that it almost seems like it never happened at all. Axolotls have been kept and studied since the 1800s. The first living axolotls to reach Europe arrived in Paris in 1864. They were brought by a French naturalist named Auguste Dumeril, who was already deeply interested in amphibian biology and had been corresponding with scientists in Mexico. When they arrived in Paris, they caused a sensation. Nothing quite like them had been seen in Europe before. Their strange appearance, their feathery gills, their placid demeanor, the way they simply floated and watched from their tanks, made them objects of intense fascination. And then, in 1865, something unexpected happened. A group of the Paris axolotls spontaneously metamorphosed. Without any deliberate intervention, some individuals suddenly began to change. Their gills shrank, their fins reduced, their bodies shifted toward the terrestrial adult form of a related salamander. This caused enormous scientific controversy. If axolotls could transform, what exactly were they? Were they truly a permanent larval form? Or were they simply a salamander that had been delayed in its development? It turned out that axolotls can, under very specific circumstances, be induced to metamorphose. The hormone thyroxine, which triggers metamorphosis in other salamanders, can push an axolotl through that transformation too. But under natural conditions, in cold, iodine-poor water like their native lake, they simply do not produce enough of it. The axolotl's eternal youth, it turns out, is a kind of chemical decision. A quiet, internal choice made by hormones, repeated generation after generation, to stay just as they are. Axolotls are critically endangered in the wild. This is the part of the story that asks us to pay attention. Lake Xochimilco, the only natural home of the wild axolotl, has been shrinking and degrading for decades. The city that grew around it, one of the largest cities on Earth, has drawn on its water sources, introduced pollutants, and brought non-native species like tilapia and carp into the water. These introduced fish are efficient predators of axolotl eggs and juveniles. They compete for the same food. They stir up the sediment and cloud water that was already delicate. The axolotl population in the wild has collapsed dramatically over the past several decades. In surveys conducted in the early 2000s, researchers found roughly 6,000 axolotls per square kilometer in some parts of the lake. By later surveys, that number had fallen to a small fraction of that. Today, some surveys of certain areas of Lake Xochimilco return no axolotls at all. This is a creature that has survived on this earth for millions of years. That outlasted ice ages. That coexisted with the great civilizations of ancient Mexico. That endured everything the world threw at it, simply by being perfectly still and perfectly adapted to its place. And it is now at the edge of vanishing from the place it has always called home. There is something in that worth sitting with, quietly, without looking away. Conservationists are working to protect what remains of the axolotls' habitat. Efforts to save the wild axolotl are ongoing, and they are thoughtful and committed. In Mexico City, a network of researchers, local farmers, and conservationists have been working together to restore sections of the Xochimilco Canal system. They have created axolotl sanctuaries, areas where non-native fish have been removed, where traditional Aztec-style farming practices have been revived, and where water quality is monitored carefully. Local farmers, called Chinamperos, who have worked these waterways for generations, have become partners in the effort. Their traditional methods of managing the canals are actually compatible with axolotl conservation, creating the kind of gentle, plant-rich habitat the axolotl needs. Captive breeding programs have also been established, both in Mexico and internationally, as an insurance population against the worst possible outcome. These efforts are not fast. They require patience, resources, cooperation, and sustained attention over many years. But they are real, and they are motivated by a deep understanding that losing the axolotl would mean losing something irreplaceable. Not just a species, but a thread in the living fabric of a place. An animal embedded in the culture and history and ecology of an ancient landscape. A creature that holds biological secrets we have not yet fully read. Axolotls are among the most widely kept exotic amphibians in the world. This is a fact with two sides. On one hand, the axolotl's popularity in captivity means that millions of people around the world are familiar with it. That its image is on mugs and t-shirts and in animated films and video games. That children grow up knowing its name, and that popularity creates interest, which can create advocacy and support for conservation. On the other hand, the captive axolotl population is genetically quite different from wild axolotls. Generations of selective breeding for color, for docility, for ease of keeping, have diverged from the lineage of the lake. Captive axolotls cannot simply be released into Xochimilco and be expected to thrive. The lake requires animals adapted to its specific conditions. There are an estimated 1 million captive axolotls in North America and Europe, and fewer wild axolotls in their native lake than scientists can comfortably count. It is a strange situation for a species to be in. Beloved and numerous in human homes and laboratories, while on the very edge of extinction in the only place it truly belongs. The axolotl, perhaps more than any other creature, asks us to think about what we mean when we say we care about something. Axolotls communicate partly through body language. They are not vocal animals. They produce no calls, no sounds, no songs in the way frogs and toads do. Their world is one of silence and sensation. But they are not entirely passive either. During mating, a male axolotl performs what researchers describe as a nudging and circling behavior. He approaches a female, nudges her gently with his snout, and then moves away in a slow, deliberate circle, as if inviting her to follow. She may follow, or she may not. There is nothing rushed about this, nothing aggressive. It is almost a dance, unhurried, underwater, in the dark. Axolotls will also angle their bodies and orient their gills in different directions, which appears to have communicative functions. And in situations of potential conflict over food or space, they may spread their gills wide, a silent display that seems to convey something like warning or presence. These are subtle signals, easy to miss if you are not paying attention. But they are there. A quiet language, exchanged in slow motion, at the bottom of still water. The axolotl has been studied by scientists since well before the word genetics was coined. Long before scientists knew about DNA, or understood how heredity worked at a molecular level, the axolotl was already a subject of intense scientific interest. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, researchers used axolotls to study metamorphosis and development. They were ideal subjects because they bred relatively easily in captivity, their embryos were large and visible, and their unique developmental biology raised questions that were compelling and fundamental. As genetics developed as a science through the early 20th century, the axolotl became increasingly useful. Its genome is enormous, one of the largest of any animal, roughly 10 times the size of the human genome. This made sequencing it a significant challenge that was not completed until 2018. When researchers finally fully mapped the axolotl genome, it opened new doors into understanding regeneration. Specific genes could be identified. Their roles could be studied. Comparisons with human genes could be made. For a creature that appears to do nothing but drift and wait and smile, the axolotl has kept biologists exceptionally busy for over 150 years. A slow animal, generating very fast science. Axolotl embryos have been used to understand how limbs develop. This is a field called developmental biology, and it concerns itself with one of the most fundamental questions in all of science. How does a single cell become a complex, organized, fully functional body? The axolotl embryo is translucent. You can watch it develop. Watch the cells divide and sort themselves. Watch the early structures of the body begin to emerge. Watch what will become a limb begin as a small outgrowth, a tiny bud that grows and branches and differentiates into something with fingers. By studying what happens when this process is disrupted, or when genes involved in it are altered, scientists have gained insight into how limb development is controlled. Because the axolotl can also regenerate its limbs in adulthood, researchers can compare the two processes: development in the embryo, regeneration in the adult, and ask what they share, and what is different, and why. This comparison has been extraordinarily productive. It has revealed that regeneration reuses many of the same molecular machinery as original development, as if the axolotl's body remembers how it was built and can replay those instructions when needed. A body that carries its own blueprint and can refer back to it. the axolotl's brain can regenerate too. This is perhaps the most extraordinary of its regenerative abilities, because the brain is the organ we most strongly associate with identity, with memory, with selfhood. Experiments have shown that when portions of an axolotl's brain are removed, the tissue grows back. Not approximate tissue, not rough filler. The correct cell types in the correct arrangement, restoring function to the degree that the animal behaves normally following recovery. The mechanisms behind this are related to what happens in the rest of the body during regeneration, the blastoma and dedifferentiation process. But in the brain, additional cellular players are involved. Neural stem cells, which persist in the adult axolotl brain in much greater numbers than in humans, are activated and begin to proliferate, producing new neurons that integrate into the existing circuitry. In humans, the adult brain has a very limited ability to generate new neurons, and almost none to regenerate tissue after injury. Understanding how the axolotl's neural stem cells behave could eventually point toward approaches for treating traumatic brain injury, neurodegenerative diseases, or spinal cord damage. The axolotl holds within its small, smiling head the answer to questions that have frustrated neuroscientists for generations. Young axolotls can sometimes regrow partial sections of missing brain, including the spinal cord, in complete recovery. Scientific papers documenting spinal cord regeneration in axolotls read like carefully contained excitement. The language is measured and precise, as scientific language must be. But underneath the careful phrasing, you can sometimes sense the researcher reaching for words that would do justice to what they are observing. When an axolotl's spinal cord is severed, the animal initially loses function below the injury. Its hind legs stop working. Its tail is unresponsive. And then, over weeks, the cord begins to regrow. Cells migrate into the gap. New connections are made. Function returns. This involves the regrowth of myelinated axons, the long projections of neurons that carry signals up and down the cord. In mammals, including humans, these do not regrow after injury. The result of spinal cord severance in a human is permanent paralysis. The axolotl simply fixes it. The gap closes. The signals resume. The axolotl swims again. This may be the most clinically significant thing about the axolotl. And it sits inside a creature that floats in a shallow lake, waiting for small worms to pass within range, smiling, as always, at the dark water around it. Axolotls do not have strong bones. Their skeleton is made largely of cartilage, the same flexible, resilient material found in human ears and noses. Only parts of their skeleton ossify or harden into true bone. Much of it remains soft and rubbery throughout their lives. This is another consequence of their neotenic state. In a metamorphosing salamander, the skeleton would harden significantly as the adult form developed. But the axolotl, never completing that transformation, retains the more flexible, cartilaginous skeleton of a larva. For a creature that lives entirely in water, this is not a disadvantage. Water supports the body. there is no need to bear one's own weight against gravity the way a land animal must. The axolotl floats, and its soft skeleton floats with it, perfectly adequate for a life lived in the weightless world beneath the surface. It is also one of the reasons regeneration is somewhat easier for the axolotl than it might otherwise be. Regenerating cartilage is biologically simpler than regenerating dense bone. The axolotl's body, in its eternal youth, chose materials that remained amenable to change. Even in its skeleton, the axolotl remains flexible. An axolotl can go for extended periods without eating. This is not unusual among cold-blooded animals, whose metabolic needs are tied closely to temperature. But the axolotl takes it to a notable degree. In cold water, their metabolism slows dramatically. They require very little energy to maintain themselves. And because they are not burning fuel to maintain a constant body temperature the way warm-blooded animals do, their caloric needs are a small fraction of what a mammal of similar size would require. In captivity, axolotls are typically fed every few days, rather than daily. Some researchers have documented periods of several weeks without feeding, with no apparent harm to healthy adults. There is something here that connects back to the axolotl's overall philosophy of existence, if we can use such a word. It needs very little. Cool water, occasional food, something to shelter beneath, somewhere still and dim. And in the meeting of those few needs, it lives and grows and heals and waits and smiles its fixed and gentle smile. Axolotls can live for 10 to 15 years in captivity, possibly longer. The oldest captive axolotls on record have lived past 20 years, though this is exceptional, not the norm. In the wild, lifespan is harder to determine precisely. The conditions of Lake Xochimilco, now degraded and patchy, likely shorten lives compared to what an optimal environment would provide. But even the baseline estimate of 10 to 15 years is a meaningful stretch of time. A decade or more of gentle floating, of slow exploration of a small territory, of seasons turning somewhere above the water while beneath it, the axolotl remains more or less the same. Consistent, unchanging, patient, that permanent, small smile never altering. Axolotls were sacred to the Aztec people. We have already touched on the god Axolotl, the deity whose name the axolotl carries. But the relationship between the axolotl and Aztec culture went deeper than a name. The Aztec people lived alongside Lake Xochimilco and its connected waterways. The axolotl was part of the landscape of their daily life, and part of their cosmology too. Xolotl was a complicated deity. He was associated with electricity and lightning, with deformity and the strange, with fire and water, and crucially, with the guiding of souls through Mictlan, the Aztec underworld. According to some Aztec myths, when the gods created the current world and the current sun, they had to sacrifice themselves. But Xolotl refused. He fled. He transformed himself, first into a corn plant, then into a magi, and finally into an axolotl, hiding in the water to avoid the fate required of all the gods. In some versions of the story, he was found and sacrificed anyway. In others, his transformation into the axolotl was his escape and his continuation. Either way, the axolotl was seen not merely as an animal, but as the embodiment of a god's final transformation, a sacred thing, hiding in the water, carrying something ancient and divine within its soft, permanent body. Axolotls also had a practical role in Aztec culture, as a source of food. This may seem surprising given what we have just discussed, but the Aztec relationship with the natural world was pragmatic as well as sacred. Many creatures that were revered were also eaten. The two things were not contradictory. The axolotl was considered a delicacy. It appears in records of Aztec cuisine, and it was described by Spanish colonizers who arrived in the 16th century. One early account described the axolotl as tasting somewhat like eel, and noted that it was considered both a luxury food and a medicine. Today, the axolotl is a protected species in Mexico, and consuming wild-caught axolotls is illegal. But their history as food is part of the full and complicated story of their relationship with the human world. A creature that was divine, and delicious, and mysterious, and medicinal, all at once. The axolotl has never been easy to place in a simple category. The axolotl shares its lake with a variety of other species. Even in its degraded current state, Xochimilco is not a dead place. It supports waterbirds, various fish, turtles, crustaceans, insects, aquatic plants, and the rich microbial life that forms the base of any healthy aquatic ecosystem. Historically, before the disruptions of modern development, the lake and its surrounding wetlands would have been extraordinarily rich. A landscape of floating gardens and still water and birds rising from the reeds and the slow movement of canoes through narrow channels. The axolotl was one thread in that fabric. A predator near the middle of the food web, eating smaller things, being eaten occasionally by larger ones, playing its quiet role in the cycling of nutrients and energy through the lake's ecosystem. Every species belongs to a web. Remove one thread and others feel it. The disappearance of the axolotl from Xochimilco would not be an isolated event. It would ripple outward in ways that are difficult to predict fully, through an ecosystem already under stress. The axolotl is not just a creature in a lake. It is part of the logic of the lake. Part of what makes that place itself. The axolotl's immune system is also unusual. It must be for regeneration to work the way it does. In most animals, the immune system is wary of anything that appears foreign or abnormal within the body. This vigilance is protective against infection and cancer. But it also means that the immune system can interfere with regeneration, treating regenerating tissue with the same suspicion it might direct at a foreign invader. The axolotl's immune system appears to be modulated during regeneration. It becomes somewhat more tolerant, allowing the blastema to form and develop without triggering the inflammatory cascades that would interrupt the process. Researchers have been studying this immune modulation closely because it has implications beyond regeneration. The balance between immune activity and tissue growth is relevant to wound healing, to transplant medicine, to autoimmune disease. Understanding how the axolotl's immune system strikes this balance could inform entirely new approaches to managing the body's defenses. Once again, this gentle, floating creature turns out to carry within it the seeds of ideas that could change how we understand and treat the human body. Axolotls can be partially transparent as embryos. When an axolotl egg hatches, the tiny larva that emerges is largely translucent. You can see the workings inside it. The beating of the heart, the circulation of blood, the development of organs over the first days and weeks of life. Scientists have used this transparency to extraordinary advantage. By injecting fluorescent dyes or genetic markers into developing axolotls, they can watch individual cells move through the body and take on roles. They can track the origin of different cell types. They can follow the development of the nervous system, the digestive system, the limb buds. This ability to watch development in real time, without dissection, without harm, has made the axolotl embryo one of the most powerful tools in developmental biology. There is something almost poetic about it. A creature that shows its insides. That has nothing hidden from view. That can be understood by simply looking carefully at it in the light. The axolotl's heart has been studied as a model for cardiac regeneration. Heart disease is among the leading causes of death in the world. And a central reason for this is that the human heart has almost no ability to regenerate after injury. When heart tissue is damaged by a heart attack, it is replaced with scar tissue. Scar tissue does not contract. It does not pump. Over time, its presence reduces the heart's efficiency. The axolotl heart regenerates. Studies have deliberately damaged portions of axolotl hearts and watched the repair happen. The damaged tissue is removed. A blastema forms. New cardiac muscle cells, called cardiomyocytes, are produced. The original architecture of the heart tissue is restored. The organ functions normally. In humans, cardiomyocytes are largely postmitotic after development, meaning they stop dividing. The heart maintains itself through the activity of a small population of cardiac stem cells, but this is nowhere near enough to repair significant damage. Understanding what allows the axolotl to reactivate cardiomyocyte division and direct proper tissue formation is an active area of research with enormous potential clinical relevance. The axolotl, that small animal with its small smile, carries a working heart that can heal itself. And in that beating, healing heart, there may be lessons for hours. Axolotls have vestigial lungs. Even though they never normally undergo metamorphosis, and even though they breathe almost entirely through their external gills and through the skin, axolotls do possess rudimentary lungs. These lungs are simple and undeveloped compared to what they would become if metamorphosis were triggered. They do not contribute significantly to gas exchange under normal conditions, but they exist. Occasionally, axolotls will rise to the surface and gulp air. This is more common in water that is warm or poorly oxygenated, conditions under which the gills alone may not be sufficient. But it also happens in healthy animals, for reasons that are not entirely clear. These vestigial lungs are remnants of the plan that was never fully executed. The blueprint for metamorphosis that exists in the axolotl's genes, but has never been fully expressed. A potential that is present and waiting, and quietly unused. Like so much in the axolotl, these lungs tell a story about what might have been and what chose instead to remain. The axolotl skin is soft and porous. Amphibians are defined in part by their permeable skin. Unlike reptiles, who wear scales as a barrier between themselves and the environment, amphibians have thin, moist, porous skin through which water and gases can pass. For the axolotl, this skin is a supplementary respiratory organ. A significant portion of the oxygen the axolotl takes in passes directly through the skin. Dissolved oxygen in the water moves across the skin membrane and into the bloodstream. Carbon dioxide moves the other way. This is called cutaneous respiration, and it means the axolotl essentially breathes through its entire body surface, not just its gills. But this permeability also makes the axolotl sensitive. Whatever is in the water passes into the animal. Pollutants, chemicals, changes in pH or temperature or oxygen level. The axolotl cannot separate itself from the quality of its environment the way an armored or sealed animal might. It is naked to the water it lives in, entirely dependent on that water being clean and cool and right. An animal that breathes through its skin is an animal that is utterly in contact with its world. There is no membrane of separation, no layer of protection from what surrounds it. It takes the world in, quite literally, through every surface of its body. Axolotls can tolerate a range of temperatures, but prefer cold. Their ideal water temperature is between 14 and 18 degrees Celsius. Cool, clear, close to the temperature of the deep lake water of their native Xochimilco. In warmer water, their metabolism increases. They become more active and also more stressed. Prolonged warmth suppresses the immune system and can lead to illness. In very cold water, below about 10 degrees Celsius, their metabolism slows dramatically. They become lethargic. They eat very little. They simply exist at the lowest possible idle. Within their preferred range, axolotls are calm and relatively active. They explore their environment slowly. They respond to feeding cues. They interact with other axolotls if present. Temperature is not just a comfort issue for the axolotl. It is a regulatory signal. The pace of regeneration, the efficiency of the immune system, the timing of reproduction, all of these are influenced by water temperature. The axolotl is calibrated to its particular cold and quiet corner of the world. And in that calibration, it works perfectly. It knows, perhaps, that some things only work well when kept cool and still. Axolotls appear in Japanese culture as well as Mexican. In Japan, the axolotl is known as Whooper Looper, a name that has no direct translation and is simply the affectionate Japanese nickname that became attached to the animal when it was introduced to Japanese pet markets in the 1980s. The axolotl became enormously popular in Japan. Its gentle appearance, its placid nature, its unusual form, made it well suited to a culture that has long had a deep appreciation for the quietly unusual. The Japanese word for this particular aesthetic, a fondness for the strange, the slightly unsettling, the eerily cute, is sometimes described through concepts like kawaii and wabi-sabi. The axolotl, with its fixed smile and floating gills and alien grace, seemed to embody both at once. There are axolotl cafes in Japan, where people can sit quietly beside tanks of them and watch. There are axolotl plush toys and keychains and figures and entire subcultures of Japanese art devoted to the creature. An animal from an ancient Mexican lake, becoming a symbol of quiet joy on the other side of the world. The axolotl does not know how far its image has traveled. It just floats and smiles and is, apparently, universally loved. Axolotls have appeared in video games. Perhaps most famously, they were added to the immensely popular game Minecraft in 2021 during an update called Caves and Cliffs. In that game, axolotls can be found in underwater caves. They can be caught in buckets, carried around, and released in water where they will help the player fight underwater enemies. They come in several colors, including the blue axolotl, which is extremely rare in the game, mimicking the rarity of unusual color morphs in real axolotls. When the Minecraft axolotl was announced, it brought the real axolotl to the attention of an enormous new audience. Players who had never heard of the animal before suddenly found themselves curious about the real thing. Searches for axolotl information spiked. Conservation organizations reported increased interest and donations. A game mechanic translated into real-world attention for a critically endangered species. The axolotl appeared in a pixelated form on millions of screens worldwide, and in doing so, perhaps nudged the world just slightly toward caring more about the real one. The axolotl has been sent to space. Not recently, and not alive, but axolotl eggs were among the biological samples carried on early space missions in the 1970s and 80s. Soviet space missions in particular made use of axolotl embryos. Their transparent eggs and rapid early development made them excellent subjects for studying how microgravity and space radiation affected biological development. Researchers wanted to know how cells divided and differentiated in the absence of gravity, how embryos oriented themselves when there was no up or down, how the axolotl's already extraordinary developmental biology behaved when removed from every earthly context. The results contributed to our understanding of how life processes are and are not gravity-dependent. And the axolotl, that creature of a single small lake, briefly became an inhabitant of space. An animal that has barely left its lake in millions of years, sent briefly beyond the atmosphere. Perhaps the axolotl eggs drifted in their containers in that weightless dark, no longer floating in cool lake water, but floating nonetheless. The axolotl can accept transplanted tissue from other axolotls without rejection. This immune tolerance extends to transplanted tissues in certain circumstances. Experiments have shown that axolotls can accept grafts of tissue from other axolotls, even partial limbs in some cases, with relatively low rejection rates compared to mammals. This has made them useful in transplant research, studying how they manage immune tolerance, how they accept foreign tissue without the severe rejection responses seen in other animals, gives researchers insight into the mechanisms of immune regulation. In some experiments, a transplanted limb from one axolotl has been accepted and vascularized by another, with blood vessels growing into the new tissue to support it. The transplanted limb does not achieve full functional integration in the way a regenerated limb does, but the acceptance alone is remarkable. The axolotl's body appears to have a fundamentally different relationship with the boundaries of self and other. A more accommodating internal philosophy, one that says, "This tissue may not be mine exactly, but let us see what we can make of it together." Axolotl research helped establish the concept of the organizer in developmental biology. This is a foundational concept in the science of how embryos develop, and the axolotl played a role in its discovery. In the 1920s, the Nobel Prize-winning researcher Hans Spemann and his colleague Hilda Mangold conducted experiments on salamander embryos, including axolotls. They discovered a specific region of the early embryo that, when transplanted to another embryo, caused a second complete body axis to develop. They called this region the organizer. It was the first demonstration that development was not simply a matter of cells following a predetermined script independently. Instead, certain cells sent signals to other cells, instructing them on what to become. The organizer told surrounding tissue how to form the head, the notochord, the nervous system. This discovery established the concept of induction in development, the idea that cells influence each other's fates through molecular communication. It was one of the most important discoveries in the history of biology. Spemann received the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine in 1935 for this work. The axolotl and its relatives were at the center of it. The axolotl's genome contains a gene called Prax1 that may be central to regeneration. Since the full sequencing of the axolotl genome in 2018, researchers have been working to identify which genes are specifically active during regeneration, and which are found in the axolotl but not in non-regenerating animals. Prax1 is one of the genes that has attracted significant attention. It is expressed at high levels in the cells of the blastema, the regenerating tissue mass, during limb regeneration. It appears to play a role in maintaining the plasticity of the cells, their ability to remain undecided about their identity while the regeneration process is underway. Humans also have a version of this gene. It is active during fetal development, when limbs are forming for the first time, but in adult humans, its expression is very low. The cells of adult human tissues are more committed to their identities and less capable of the kind of dedifferentiation that regeneration requires. The question being pursued is whether this gene could be reactivated in adult human cells. Whether the axolotl's approach could be, in some sense, borrowed. The axolotl does not know that it is teaching us. It simply keeps regenerating, quietly and completely, in its tank or its lake, solving problems that have defeated us for a very long time. Axolotls have inspired artists, writers, and poets. The most famous literary treatment of the axolotl is a short story by the Argentine writer Julio Cortázar, published in 1956. The story is simply titled Axolotl. In it, a man becomes obsessed with the axolotls he observes in a Paris aquarium. He visits them daily. He stares at them for hours. He becomes convinced that they have an inner life that he is just barely failing to reach. And then, slowly, the story shifts. The narrator is no longer certain whether he is the man looking at the axolotl or the axolotl looking at the man. The boundaries between the observer and the observed dissolve. By the story's end, the narrator is inside the tank, looking out through gold eyes, watching the man who used to be him press his face to the glass. It is a story about empathy, about the limits of understanding, about what it means to truly see another kind of life. Cortázar chose the axolotl specifically because it occupies that threshold space. Neither fully one thing nor another. Larval but adult. Alive but uncannily still. Looking back with eyes that seem to hold some knowledge we can't access. The axolotl has a way of making people think about consciousness, about what it is to be, and to perceive, and to live in a body, in water, in the dark. Some researchers believe that studying axolotl aging could tell us about human aging. The axolotl ages much more slowly than most comparable vertebrates. Its neoteny, that perpetual juvenile state, extends to many biological processes. The cells maintain a kind of flexibility and regenerative capacity throughout life that most animals lose early. There is a connection here to the science of aging, which has increasingly focused on cellular senescence, the process by which cells stop dividing and begin to malfunction as a driver of aging-related decline. In many animals, older tissues accumulate senescent cells. These cells stop working properly and begin to send inflammatory signals that damage surrounding tissue. Over time, this accumulation is thought to contribute to many of the hallmarks of aging. Axolotl tissues appear to have a lower rate of cellular senescence. The cells remain more active, more capable of dividing, more able to respond to damage with repair rather than decline. Understanding how the axolotl's cellular biology resists senescence is an area of growing interest in longevity research. An animal that never truly grows old, in a biological sense, asking us to examine our own relationship with time. The axolotl has a three-part brain divided into familiar regions. Despite its exotic nature, the axolotl brain follows the same basic vertebrate plan as a human brain. There is a forebrain, a midbrain, and a hindbrain. There is a cerebellum involved in coordination. There is a brainstem controlling basic functions. But the proportions are very different. The forebrain, which in humans is enormously developed and forms the vast majority of brain volume, is much smaller and simpler in the axolotl. There is no cerebral cortex, no folded and layered structure responsible for language, abstract thought, or planning. The axolotl perceives its world responds to it, navigates it, hunts in it, mates in it, and goes about its quiet existence, all with a brain that fits into a creature no longer than your hand. Its experience of the world is surely nothing like ours. And yet it is experiencing something, moving toward food and away from threat, sensing the presence of others, resting when it rests, and being alert when it needs to be. A simpler version of the same story. Being alive, in water, in the dark, with a small and working brain and enough of the world to move through. Conservation work in Xochimilco has become a model for urban wetland preservation. The challenge of saving the axolotl is inseparable from the challenge of saving its habitat. And that habitat exists within one of the most densely populated urban environments on Earth. Mexico City is home to over 20 million people. It sprawls across a high-altitude valley where lakes once covered vast areas, and where water management has been a central challenge since Aztec times. Xochimilco, with its ancient canal system, is one of the last remnants of that original lake world. Saving it requires negotiating between the needs of an enormous city and the needs of a fragile ecosystem. It requires improving water quality in canals fed by urban runoff. It requires managing the invasive species that have taken hold. It requires keeping traditional farming practices alive in a modernizing economy. And it requires the engagement of the people who live and work around the lake. The Chinamperos, the farmers, the local community, the schools, the tourist operators. All of them becoming part of the story of the axolotl and of the landscape that gave it its name. This kind of conservation, embedded in a living human community, negotiating with everyday life rather than simply fencing life out, is increasingly seen as the model for how urban nature must be protected going forward. And the axolotl, that ancient and patient creature, is at its center. The axolotl can detect its own limb position, even after regeneration. When a limb regrows, it is not merely a structural replacement. The new limb must be reintegrated with the nervous system. Nerves must grow into the new tissue. Sensory pathways must reconnect. The brain must learn to receive signals from the new limb and interpret them correctly. And it does. Studies testing the proprioception of axolotls after limb regeneration, that is, their sense of where their limbs are in space, have found that it returns to normal. The animal moves normally. It places its feet correctly. It navigates obstacles. It behaves as though the missing limb had never been missing. This requires the regeneration of specific sensory neurons, including proprioceptive nerve endings in the muscles and joints of the new limb. And it requires those neurons to find their correct targets in the spinal cord and brain, re-establishing pathways that were severed with the original limb. It is not just tissue that regenerates. It is connection. It is communication. It is the body relearning itself. There is a sanctuary called the Chinampa Refuge that protects axolotls in Xochimilco. Founded by Mexican biologist Luis Zambrano and supported by a coalition of scientists, local farmers, and conservation organizations, this project has created managed areas within the canal system where the conditions the axolotl needs have been carefully restored. In these refuges, non-native fish have been removed through targeted trapping. Native aquatic plants have been reintroduced. Traditional Chinampa farming, which creates diverse habitat with a mosaic of open water, edge habitat, and vegetated margins, has been encouraged. Water quality in these areas has improved measurably, and axolotl populations within the sanctuaries have shown signs of recovery. Zambrano and his colleagues have spoken about the importance of local people in this work, not imposing conservation from outside, but working with the communities whose livelihoods are tied to the lake, creating incentives for farmers to adopt axolotl-friendly practices, connecting the survival of the axolotl with the health of the broader ecosystem that the community depends on. The axolotl's survival may ultimately depend on whether a city can remember what lies beneath its waters and decide that it matters. The axolotl can regenerate the same limb multiple times. This is not a one-time ability. It is not as though the axolotl uses up its regenerative capacity with the first replacement. Experiments in which the same limb has been amputated repeatedly have shown that regeneration occurs each time. The quality of the regenerated limb may diminish slightly with repeated amputations. There are some reports of minor structural variations in the later generation limbs, but the fundamental capacity persists. The axolotl's body does not run out. It keeps the recipe. It can refer to it again and again, as many times as it needs to. There is something deeply reassuring about this, in a quiet way. The idea that the capacity for repair does not exhaust itself with use. That healing does not deplete the healer. That the body, given the right conditions, can simply keep rebuilding. An unlimited capacity for beginning again. Quietly, without drama, piece by piece. The axolotl has no external ears. Sound travels differently in water than in air. Pressure waves move faster and carry differently through the dense medium of water. And the machinery for detecting sound has evolved differently in aquatic and terrestrial animals as a result. The axolotl has no external ear opening and no tympanic membrane of the kind that terrestrial vertebrates use to capture airborne sound waves. Instead, it has an inner ear structure that can detect vibrations conducted through the water and through the body itself. Its sense of sound, to the extent that it has one, is felt rather than heard, experienced as vibration rather than as what we would recognize as sound. Combined with the lateral line system, which detects water movement, the axolotl builds a picture of its sonic environment that is fundamentally different from how we experience the world. No ears. No sound as we understand it. Just the slow, constant, watery vibration of a world felt rather than heard. The axolotl's 4 legs developed from a common ancestral plan shared with all tetrapods. Tetrapods, meaning 4-limbed vertebrates, include amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals. All of us. We share, despite our enormous differences, the same basic plan for the limbs. 1 bone in the upper segment, 2 bones in the lower segment, a collection of smaller bones at the joint, and then the digits. The axolotl's 4 small legs follow this plan. Look closely and you can see the same arrangement, the same fundamental architecture that is in a bird's wing and a whale's flipper and a human hand. The axolotl never left the water. Its legs never needed to carry its weight for long distances on land. They are small and somewhat weak compared to the terrestrial salamanders that its genes contain the instructions for. But the plan is the same. The ancient inheritance is there. Looking at those 4 small legs, barely stirring as the axolotl drifts, you are looking at the same solution to the problem of movement that evolution arrived at hundreds of millions of years ago and kept. We are closer than we might think, you and the axolotl, in our ancient architecture. Axolotls have inspired the design of soft robotic systems. The way an axolotl moves, the undulation of its fin, the gentle sweeping of its gilled head, the coordinated movement of its small legs, has attracted the attention of roboticists interested in fluid and adaptable locomotion. Conventional robots tend to be rigid. Their movements are precise but limited. Soft robotics, a rapidly growing field, looks to biology for inspiration in designing machines that can move more fluidly, navigate unstructured environments, and interact gently with the world. The axolotl's locomotion, which seamlessly combines multiple modes of movement, fin-based swimming, limb-based walking on the substrate, hovering almost in place with minimal effort, is an elegant solution that engineering minds find instructive. Robots designed to move through underwater environments, to search through rubble, to navigate tight and complex spaces, have drawn on the axolotl's design as a source of ideas. An animal that never left its lake, inspiring machines that may one day explore the deepest parts of the sea, or the rubble of a collapsed building, looking for survivors. The axolotl does not have a stomach in the traditional sense. This is a subtlety of amphibian anatomy. Axolotls have a digestive system that is simpler than the mammalian one. Their gastrointestinal tract processes food more slowly and with less elaborate specialization than a stomach-bearing animal. This contributes to their relatively low metabolic needs. Food passes through and is processed without the burst of energy expenditure that digestion requires in warmer-blooded animals. The process is slow and quiet, like everything else about the axolotl. They have a taste for live food, or at minimum food that moves. This is because their hunting response is triggered largely by movement, detected through that lateral line system. Still, food may go unnoticed. A small worm moving in the water will activate the response instantly. It means the axolotl lives in a world where movement signals food and stillness signals safety. The two things that matter most, interpreted through the single dimension of motion. Still means calm. Move means respond. Simple, efficient, completely sufficient for a life lived at the bottom of a cold and quiet lake. The axolotl's pigment cells are called chromatophores. These are specialized cells that contain pigment, and they are responsible for the color and patterns of the axolotl's skin. Different types of chromatophores contain different pigments. Melanophores contain the dark pigment melanin. Xanthophores contain yellow and orange pigments. Iridophores contain crystalline structures that reflect light and produce iridescent effects. In wild-type axolotls, these cells are distributed in patterns that produce the mottled brownish-black coloration suited to their environment. In the leucistic form, the pale white one with pink eyes, melanophores are present but fail to migrate properly during development, leaving the skin without most of its dark pigment. In albino axolotls, melanin production itself is absent. In the golden albino, xanthophores and iridophores remain active, producing that warm and shimmering golden color. Each color morph is a different setting of the same controls. The same cells, the same signals, tuned differently, producing white or gold or black or copper from the same basic palette. Color as variation on a theme. The same animal, many different lights. Some scientists study axolotls to understand embryonic diapause. Diapause is a state of suspended development. Certain animals can pause their development at specific stages, often in response to environmental conditions, and resume it when conditions improve. The axolotl's suspended metamorphosis is in some ways analogous to a very long diapause. Development has reached a certain point and then stopped, not because something has gone wrong, but because the pause itself has become the successful strategy. Understanding diapause is relevant to reproductive medicine, particularly the preservation of embryos. In many species, embryos can be cryopreserved and thawed later, but the mechanisms that allow this to happen without cellular damage are not fully understood. Studying animals like the axolotl, whose developmental biology involves deliberate pausing and resumption, may help illuminate those mechanisms. The axolotl's whole life is a kind of well-managed pause, a held breath that never quite releases, a development interrupted and sustained at exactly the right moment. Something between beginning and the rest of the story. Perfectly at home there. Ancient Mexican codices contain images of the axolotl. A codex is a pre-Columbian manuscript, folded like a book, created on bark paper or deer hide and painted with pigments. They recorded history, calendars, mythology, tribute, and natural history. The axolotl appears in several surviving codices, depicted with its distinctive feathery gills and distinctive form. It appears in lists of the animals and resources of the lake region. It appears in mythological scenes connected to Xolotl. It appears in tribute lists, suggesting it was a commodity of value. These images are among the oldest known depictions of the axolotl. They were drawn by people who lived alongside it, who ate it and revered it and saw it daily in their canals and gardens. People for whom the axolotl was not exotic but familiar, part of the ordinary texture of life. They painted it with care, with detail, with the same attention they gave to gods and kings. The axolotl earned its place in the written record of a civilization. Painted with feathered gills and fixed smile, in pigments that have lasted 500 years. Axolotls need darkness to feel secure. In their natural habitat, the waters of Xochimilco are murky and dim. Sunlight filters down through sediment-clouded water, through the shade of water plants, diffusing before it reaches the bottom where the axolotl rests. In captivity, axolotls are generally sensitive to bright light. They will move away from illuminated areas and seek cover. Tanks kept under bright fluorescent lighting show more stressed and hidden animals. Tanks with dim, filtered light and plenty of shelter show calmer, more active ones. They prefer to hide under rocks, inside ceramic tubes, beneath the drape of aquatic plants. These hides are not just refuges from threat, they are the preferred resting places. The axolotl chooses the dark corner, the cool shadow, the still and protected place. There is something in this that speaks to the nature of rest. The darkness is not threatening. It is where the axolotl goes to be at ease, to be still, to feel held. The dark, for the axolotl, is home. Axolotls have a remarkable ability to tolerate their own cloned tissue. Scientists have created cloned axolotl tissue and transplanted it into host animals, and found that the hosts accept it without the immune reactions that would normally accompany a foreign graft. This has opened interesting avenues in immunology research. The question of how the immune system distinguishes self from non-self, and what happens when that distinction is altered, is central to understanding transplant rejection, autoimmune disease, and even cancer. The axolotl's particular immune tolerance, both to its own regenerating tissue and to certain foreign grafts, seems to involve specific regulatory immune cells that suppress the inflammatory response in precise and controlled ways. Identifying these cells and understanding their signals has become a research priority. If those signals could be harnessed, it might be possible to reduce rejection of transplanted organs in human medicine. To teach the human immune system to show the same kind of welcome that the axolotl extends to tissue that comes from somewhere else. An animal whose body says yes more often than no. That extends acceptance as a default. That heals and integrates and continues. The axolotl's relationship with water goes all the way down to its cells. All living cells require water. But aquatic animals like the axolotl have a particularly intimate relationship with it because the water outside the body and the water inside the cells are in constant, permeable exchange. Osmoregulation, the management of the body's water and salt balance, is a constant, invisible process in the axolotl. The gills and skin, both of which are in direct contact with the water, are central to this. Ions move in and out. Water moves in and out. The body maintains its internal chemistry precisely, despite being surrounded by a medium that is constantly trying to equilibrate with it. This requires energy and active regulation. Specialized cells in the gills, called ionocytes, pump ions against concentration gradients, keeping sodium and chloride and other minerals at the right levels inside the body. Every breath the axolotl takes through its gills is also a moment of chemical exchange. Oxygen in, carbon dioxide out, ions carefully managed, the internal ocean balanced against the external one. The axolotl is in constant conversation with its water, not metaphorically, chemically, molecularly, at every surface of its body, all the time. The eggs of an axolotl are wrapped in a protective jelly. When a female axolotl lays her eggs, each one is enclosed in a translucent sphere of gelatinous material. This jelly serves multiple purposes. It holds moisture around the developing embryo. It provides a physical cushion against bumps and disturbances. It carries a mild antimicrobial effect that helps protect the embryo from pathogens in the water. The eggs are typically attached to aquatic plants or surfaces in the environment. A female can lay hundreds of eggs at a time, scattering them singly or in small clusters through the vegetation. Looking at a cluster of axolotl eggs under light is a quiet and beautiful thing. Each sphere contains a tiny dark dot, the embryo, suspended in its clear globe of jelly, floating, like all axolotls float, in its own small protected world. Within days, that dark dot begins to change. It divides. It organizes. The first cells of what will become a creature take up their positions. The process of becoming begins, enclosed in jelly, in water, in darkness. Every axolotl ever born began in one of those quiet spheres, held by jelly, protected by water, becoming slowly in the dark. There are programs in Mexico City schools that teach children about axolotls. Environmental education connected to local species and landscapes is among the most powerful tools conservationists have. Children who grow up knowing an animal, who learn its name and its biology and its story, are more likely to care about its fate as adults. In schools near Xochimilco, students learn about the axolotl as part of their natural and cultural heritage. They learn its nahuatl name and the mythology behind it. They learn about its biology and why it is important. Some programs take children to visit the canals, to see the landscape the axolotl calls home. There are axolotl mascots for the city, axolotl imagery on metro maps and public art, a growing cultural reclamation of the animal as a symbol of Mexico City's own ancient waterscape identity. Something that was nearly lost, becoming visible again, named again, celebrated again, given back its place in the imagination of the city that grew over its lake. The children who learn the axolotl's name today may be the ones who make the decisions that determine its future. That is how conservation actually works. In classrooms, over decades, one story at a time. The axolotl featured on Mexican currency. For many years, the 50 peso note in Mexico bore the image of the axolotl, a small, soft, neotenic amphibian, placed alongside symbols of national identity. This is not nothing. The decision to place an animal on currency is a decision about what a culture values, about what it considers worth representing in the symbols it passes between its people every day. The axolotl was chosen, in part, because it is uniquely and entirely Mexican. It belongs nowhere else. It is not a symbol borrowed from somewhere else's mythology or ecology. It is native, endemic, deeply rooted in the landscape and history of the place. There is something quietly powerful about an image that says, "This strange and soft and ancient creature that floats in a canal of your city, this is something we treasure. This is something that belongs to us, and to which we belong. The axolotl, on paper passed from hand to hand, carrying a face that smiles always, moving quietly through the daily commerce of a nation. The axolotl's regenerative abilities diminish slightly with age, but never disappear entirely. Studies comparing regeneration speed and completeness in young axolotls versus older ones have found that younger animals regenerate faster and with slightly higher fidelity. The blastema forms more quickly. The tissue grows back more rapidly. Minor structural anomalies, if they appear at all, are rarer. But older axolotls do not lose their regenerative capacity. The ability merely slows, modulates, continues at a more measured pace. This is consistent with broader patterns in biology, where regenerative capacity tends to decline with age, but the axolotl declines less steeply than almost any other vertebrate studied. Researchers studying the age-related decline in axolotl regeneration hope to identify what changes, and why, and whether those changes could be slowed or reversed. Because if you could understand why the axolotl's healing slows as it ages, you might understand something about why human healing slows with age too, and whether anything could be done about that. An animal whose healing fades slowly, teaching us about fading, and about the possibility of fading less. Axolotls have a connection to the concept of pedomorphosis in evolutionary biology. Pedomorphosis is the retention of juvenile characteristics into adulthood. It is a broader category of which neoteny, the axolotl's particular form, is a specific example. Evolutionary biologists find pedomorphosis fascinating because it represents a different way that evolution can work. Instead of always adding complexity, always building more elaborate adult structures, evolution can sometimes work backward. It can retain the simple, the early, the undeveloped. And if those retained juvenile traits turn out to be advantageous in the environment, they are selected for. Some evolutionary biologists have argued that aspects of human evolution may also involve pedomorphosis. Compared to other great apes, adult humans retain certain characteristics more typical of infant or juvenile apes. A rounded skull, large eyes relative to face size, a reduced brow ridge, relative lack of body hair. The argument, which is contested and complex, suggests that the developmental plasticity associated with youthful forms may have contributed to human adaptability and intelligence. Whether or not that hypothesis holds, the axolotl stands as perhaps the clearest living demonstration that staying young is not always a failure to grow. Sometimes it is the successful strategy. Sometimes the evolution that wins is the one that chose to remain. Scientists have discovered that axolotl regeneration involves the immune cells called macrophages in a surprising way. Macrophages are large immune cells whose primary job is to engulf pathogens, dead cells, and debris. They are among the first responders at a site of injury. In most animals, including humans, macrophages at an injury site drive inflammation. They signal other immune cells. They begin the process of wound sealing, and eventually they contribute to the formation of scar tissue. In axolotls, macrophages behave differently. Experiments depleting macrophages during axolotl limb regeneration found that the process failed. Without macrophages, the wound healed with scar tissue rather than regenerating the limb. This showed that macrophages in axolotls are not just cleaners. They are active participants in regeneration. They appear to shift the wound environment from scar-forming to regeneration permissive. They modulate the inflammatory signals in ways that allow the blastoma to form rather than being replaced by fibrous scar. In humans, macrophages tend to stay in the scar-promoting mode. Understanding how axolotl macrophages switch modes and what signals govern that switch could be transformative for human wound healing. The axolotl's secret weapon, it turns out, may live inside its immune cells. In small, wandering, microscopic cleaners that somehow learned to build instead of just clearing away. The axolotl's nasal organs help it detect chemicals dissolved in the water. While the axolotl does not have a nose in the way we think of one, it has chemosensory organs that detect molecules dissolved in water. This is olfaction adapted for an aquatic life. The axolotl can detect the chemical signatures of prey, of other axolotls, of potential mates, of predators, all through the dissolved molecular traces that every living thing leaves in the water. Water is a rich medium for chemical information. Every organism releases molecules into it. Metabolic byproducts, hormones, alarm chemicals released when an animal is injured or stressed. The water carries all of this, and the axolotl swims through it, reading the invisible text. During mating season, chemical signals become particularly important. Pheromones released by mature individuals signal readiness to mate. They draw animals toward each other through the water. They initiate the nudging and circling behavior we discussed earlier. The axolotl's world is full of information we cannot perceive. A chemistry of presence and history and readiness, written in molecules, drifting through still water, read by something that never needed eyes for this particular kind of knowing. Axolotls have inspired children's books and educational media around the world. The axolotl has become an unusual ambassador. Its combination of gentle appearance, fascinating biology, and real conservation urgency makes it an ideal subject for teaching children about the natural world. Picture books featuring axolotls have been published in Spanish, English, Japanese, French, and other languages. Some focus on its biological uniqueness. Others tell its story through the lens of conservation. Some simply celebrate its strangeness and beauty. In educational videos and nature documentaries, the axolotl appears reliably as the subject that makes children lean forward. The one they have not seen before. The one they immediately want to know more about. Its unusual face, its floating gills, its permanent expression of gentle contentment, all of these make it visually captivating in a way that is immediate and visceral. You do not need to be told that the axolotl is interesting. You simply look at it, and you know. An animal that teaches itself by being exactly what it is. The Xochimilco wetlands are part of a UNESCO World Heritage Site. In 1987, the Historic Center of Mexico City and the Xochimilco District were jointly inscribed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The designation recognized the exceptional cultural and historical significance of the area, including the unique system of ancient canals and chinampas that represents an extraordinary example of traditional land use continuing into the present. Ironically, this designation did not prevent the ongoing degradation of the water system. The pressures of urbanization, water diversion, and species introduction continued regardless of the international recognition. But the designation has contributed to international awareness. It has brought funding and attention to conservation efforts. It has given the axolotl and its habitat a platform on the world stage. A place so significant that humanity agreed it should be preserved, and the axolotl swimming quietly in its canals, part of the heritage that makes that place worth caring for. Not just a creature in a lake. A creature in a place that the world has agreed, at least in principle, matters. The scientific name of the axolotl is Ambystoma mexicanum. Ambystoma comes from the Greek, meaning cup mouth, a reference to the structure of its oral cavity. Mexicanum, of course, for Mexico. Its homeland. Its only homeland. The genus Ambystoma contains about 30 other species of mole salamanders, all native to North America. Most of them complete metamorphosis in the normal way, growing up, moving onto land, living their adult lives as terrestrial creatures. The axolotl is the exception, the one that chose differently, the one whose chemistry and lake and evolutionary history conspired to produce something that stayed exactly where it began, in the water, in the larval form, in the state of perpetual beginning. Ambystoma mexicanum. Mexican cup mouth. Permanently young. Permanently here. Permanently at home. A name that contains a geography and a biology and an entire life story in 6 syllables. Axolotls live in social proximity, but are not highly social animals. They will coexist peacefully with other axolotls in a shared space, particularly if there is sufficient room and food. They do not school together the way fish sometimes do. They do not appear to form lasting pair bonds or social hierarchies. They do not collaborate to hunt or defend territory in coordinated ways. But they are not entirely solitary either. There is something that might be called parallel existence. Several axolotls sharing a space, each doing essentially the same thing, floating and waiting and occasionally hunting, in proximity to each other but without any particular connection or conflict. In mating season, that changes. Chemical signals draw them together. The nudging and circling begins. There is a tension, however briefly, directed between individuals. But when the season passes, they return to their parallel lives, floating near each other, not requiring each other, just being nearby, in the cool and the dark, each sufficient unto itself. The axolotl's immune system has a thymus, just like mammals. The thymus is the organ responsible for producing and maturing T cells, the lymphocytes at the heart of adaptive immunity. It is present in all vertebrates with a fully developed adaptive immune system. The axolotl has one. Small, tucked beside its heart, producing T cells that circulate through the body and respond to pathogens. This immune system is in many ways like ours. It can recognize foreign molecules. It develops memory of past infections. It can distinguish self from non-self. And yet it does so while permitting regeneration, while allowing foreign tissue in certain contexts, while facilitating the dedifferentiation of its own cells without treating them as targets, while managing all of this simultaneously in a small and water-breathing body. The axolotl's immune system is not weaker than ours. It is more finely calibrated. It makes different decisions about what to tolerate and when. It has found a balance that we have not. An immune system that learned to say yes when necessary, without abandoning its fundamental job of protection, both open and defended, both welcoming and careful. Axolotl research continues at institutions around the world. Universities in Mexico, the United States, Germany, the United Kingdom, Japan, and elsewhere maintain active axolotl research colonies. These colonies are regulated and managed carefully, with attention to genetic diversity and animal welfare. The research questions being pursued span an enormous range. Regeneration mechanisms, developmental biology, cardiac healing, spinal cord recovery, aging, immune tolerance, genome structure and gene regulation, neural stem cell biology, evolution of metamorphosis. For a single species, the axolotl occupies an extraordinarily large amount of scientific attention. This is because its unusual biology happens to sit at the intersection of multiple urgent questions in biomedicine. It is as though evolution, without planning to, designed an ideal research subject for the questions humanity is most urgently trying to answer. In laboratories where axolotls are kept, there is often a quiet quality to the room. The tanks are lit gently. The water is filtered and cooled. The animals float in their characteristic way, gills swaying, eyes open, unaware of the attention being paid to them, simply being axolotls in the way they have always been. While all around them, people take careful notes. The axolotl is one of only a few vertebrates that can regenerate their retinas. The retina is the layer of light-sensitive cells at the back of the eye. It is among the most complex tissues in the vertebrate body, organized in precise layers, containing multiple cell types with specialized functions, connected to the brain through the optic nerve. In most vertebrates, including humans, damage to the retina is permanent. Diseases that destroy retinal cells, like certain forms of macular degeneration and retinitis pigmentosa, lead to irreversible vision loss because the damaged cells cannot be replaced. The axolotl can regenerate its retina. Experimental damage to axolotl retinas has been followed by cellular proliferation and replacement of lost cells. The layers reorganize. The connections reform. Visual function returns. The cells responsible appear to be a population of retinal stem cells that persist in the adult axolotl eye in much greater numbers than in adult human eyes. These cells can be activated by damage and begin producing the cell types needed to rebuild the tissue. Understanding how these retinal stem cells are activated and directed could have enormous implications for treating human eye disease. The axolotl, whose eyes stay open always, watching with those fixed and golden-ringed gaze, can also repair those very eyes if they are damaged. An animal that watches the world and heals its ability to watch. Every axolotl you have ever seen in a photograph was once an egg no larger than a small marble. That egg contained everything. Every instruction for the feathery gills, the soft cartilaginous skeleton, the lateral line cells, the permanent smile, the golden ringed eyes, the blastema potential, the slow heartbeat, the capacity to regenerate a leg or a jaw or a piece of brain. All of it encoded, coiled, waiting, in a sphere the size of a small pea, wrapped in transparent jelly, attached to the stem of a water plant in a murky canal, in a city at the edge of a mountain range, in the middle of a continent. And then it became. Cell by cell, day by day, the instructions were read out. The body assembled itself according to a plan written in a language older than words, older than cities, older than the Aztec civilization that gave it its name, older, perhaps, than anything we could easily imagine. The axolotl is a very old design. Its body plan has not changed dramatically in a very long time. It is a living record of something that worked and kept working and continues to work today. Every axolotl is a small and perfect repetition of that very first moment of becoming. A blueprint reread, a pattern reprinted, a quiet miracle, made again and again and again, in cold water, in the dark. There is a quality to the axolotl's presence that is difficult to name. People who keep them describe it often. A kind of stillness that the animal brings into a room. Not the stillness of absence or emptiness, but the stillness of something that is entirely, absolutely, completely where it is. You look at an axolotl and it is not thinking about tomorrow. It is not reviewing yesterday. It is not building toward anything or away from anything. It is simply present in its water, in its moment, in its small and sufficient world. This is not an anthropomorphism. It is an observation about the quality of the creature's existence. The axolotl does not have the neural complexity for rumination or anticipation in the way mammals do. It simply is. Here. Now. Without division. And something about watching that, even through glass, even at a distance, even in a photograph or a video on a screen at the end of a long and complicated day, something about it quiets things down. As though the axolotl, simply by being what it is, demonstrates that this is possible. To float, to be still, to need very little and have enough, to heal, to continue, to smile. It is enough to watch it. It is enough to know it exists. Has been rising due to climate change. This adds another layer of urgency to axolotl conservation. Lake Xochimilco sits at an altitude of roughly 2,200 meters above sea level. The high altitude historically kept water temperatures cool within the range the axolotl prefers. As global temperatures rise, average water temperatures in the lake have been trending upward. For a species already stressed by habitat loss, pollution, and invasive predators, warmer water adds metabolic and immune stress. Conservation plans for the axolotl must now account for a future in which even the best-managed sections of Xochimilco may be gradually warmer than the axolotl's optimal range. This has pushed researchers to study the axolotl's thermal tolerance in more detail, to identify the specific temperatures at which immune function begins to decline, at which reproduction is affected, at which survival rates begin to fall. And it has raised the possibility that some axolotl refuges may need to be managed even more intensively in future, possibly including active water cooling in the most critical areas. The axolotl that has survived ice ages and millennia now faces a warming that is happening faster than any it has met before. And yet the efforts to protect it continue. Patient, careful, long-term. As patient, perhaps, as the axolotl itself. The axolotl holds a mirror up to what it means to be alive. We have spent a long time with this creature tonight. We have gone into the cold water of its lake and moved through its world, however distantly, however gently. And somewhere along the way, perhaps, it started to feel less like learning facts about a strange animal, and more like sitting quietly with a question. The axolotl never grew up, and it turned out that was not a failure. It never left its lake, and it turned out that was not a limitation. It heals completely, and it does not carry the scars of its injuries forward. It smiles always, not because everything is perfect, but because its face was made that way, and perhaps that is not so different from choosing to be at peace. It breathes through its skin. It sleeps with its eyes open. It speaks in the language of gentle water movements and the slow circling of a courtship dance in the dark. It is nearly gone from the place it came from. And people all over the world are trying to make sure it does not disappear. The axolotl, small and soft and ancient, carrying the name of a god, and the blueprint for healing, and the patience of something that has learned how to simply be, in cool water, in the dark, for a very long time. The axolotl holds a mirror up to what it means to be alive. But first, one more thing worth knowing. The axolotl's heartbeat is slow. Slower than you might expect. A resting axolotl at its preferred temperature has a heart rate of somewhere between 20 and 40 beats per minute, compared to the human resting range of 60 to 100. You can sometimes see the heart beating, in young or lightly pigmented animals, through the skin just behind the gills. A steady, unhurried pulse. Slow, reliable, going about its work without urgency. This slow heart is part of the axolotl's metabolic economy. Everything runs at a measured pace. Energy is conserved. The body maintains itself on very little. The heart beats slowly and steadily through a life measured in decades rather than seasons. Imagine feeling that slow pulse. Imagine your own heart finding that rhythm. 20 quiet beats per minute in cool water. The whole body organized around stillness, around conservation, around the minimal and the sufficient, a slow heart in a cool body in dark water. Beating, slowly, on and on. There is one more quiet truth about the axolotl. It does not seek anything beyond its world. It does not press against the edges of its tank or its lake looking for something more. It does not grow restless in the shallows and hunger for the deep. It does not mourn the land it never went to, the metamorphosis it never completed, the other kind of creature it might have become. It is entirely itself in the place it is. There is a philosophy in biology called satisficing, a portmanteau of satisfying and sufficing. It describes the strategy of finding a solution that is good enough and stopping there, rather than exhausting resources in pursuit of the optimal. The axolotl is perhaps the most exquisite biological example of satisficing. It found a way of being that worked, that healed itself and reproduced and survived and fit into its lake. And it stayed there. It did not keep optimizing. It did not keep changing in search of something better. It simply was, and continued to be, in the form that was already sufficient. Good enough, in the axolotl's case, turned out to be extraordinary. Good enough, in the axolotl's case, turned out to carry within it the secrets of healing, the wisdom of stillness, the grace of a creature that never needed to be anything more than what it was. And now, truly, dear listener, our quiet journey comes gently to its end. We have drifted through the cool, dim water of an ancient Mexican lake. We have learned the name that carries a god within it. We have watched those feathery gills sway in the still current, doing their soft work, moving oxygen into a small and remarkable body. We have marveled at a creature that heals what is broken, that keeps its youth like a held note, that sleeps with open eyes at the bottom of the world. We have held the word axolotl in our minds, like a stone worn smooth by water, and felt how it settles. We have thought about a civilization that painted this animal with care on bark paper, about scientists who have devoted careers to understanding the gift it carries in its genes, about a city that is slowly, carefully, trying to make room for it again. And perhaps, in some small and quiet way, we have also thought about ourselves, about healing, about patience, about what it means to stay and wait and simply be in the place you belong. The axolotl has no plans for tomorrow. It has no list of things left unfinished. It has only the cool water and the slow sway of its gills and the dim and perfect dark. If you are still here, still listening, that is a gift. And I hope you are beginning to drift. Let the weight of the day soften now. Let it settle into the surface you are resting on. Let your breath find its own rhythm, unhurried, easy. Imagine yourself somewhere cool and still. A shallow pool, maybe. Or a quiet room with the window cracked just enough to let in the night air. Or the inside of a dream that has not quite begun. Somewhere down there, in the waterways of an old and storied city, an axolotl is resting, eyes open and seeing nothing in particular, gills moving barely at all. floating an inch above the mud, suspended in the cool dark like something left gently mid-thought. It does not know it is remarkable. It does not know that scientists have mapped every gene in its body, or that children on the other side of the world have its image on their pencil cases, or that a story written 70 years ago still asks what it is like to look out from behind those golden eyes. It simply exists. Fully, quietly, in the only way it knows how. And if you let yourself, you can follow it there, into that stillness, into that soft and dimensionless dark where nothing is required of you and everything is already enough. Close your eyes. Let your breath carry you. Let the night hold you the way water holds something small and perfectly weighted. The axolotl is resting. And so, at last, are you. The story continues, always, in the dark beneath the water. But your part in it, for tonight, is simply to sleep. Good night.